explain to me what is meant by the Trinity, because a lot of Muslims here would be totally confused about this. They want to know. Tell us, what is meant by the Trinity?
Trinity is, it's a working concept that I find fairly persuasive, but we see often Father, Son, and Spirit mentioned together, not always in that order, but for example, the end of Matthew 28 or the end of 2 Corinthians 13. Some Christians think that you shouldn't use the word Trinity because it's not in the Bible, but then the word Bible is not in the Bible, so we have to say something. Trinity, we believe strictly there's only one God, but that God is Father, Son, and Spirit. So when we say Jesus is God, we never mean Jesus is Father, Son, and Spirit. That would be nonsensical. We're saying he's God in nature. And it's not, they're obviously not three rotating gods or manifestations of God. This is not modalism. This is not Sabellianism. I know you've studied all that theology and church history. Bless you for doing that. But that's not what Christians mean. They hold on to a belief in one God, only one God, but a God who reveals himself as a human in Jesus' earthly ministry through Jesus Christ. So that's what we mean. And we definitely don't think it's Allah, Isa, and Maryam, as in the Quran.
Neither do I, but let me ask my next question.
It is in the Quran that way.
It's not in the Quran that way, but let me ask my question.
Oh, yeah.
So you say that Jesus is by nature God. And I think you will agree that God by nature is spirit, given the biblical language about this. True?
God is spirit in Christianity, yeah. John
Yes.
4:24.
Okay. So God is spirit, and Jesus is by nature God, so he's a spirit. True?
True, before the incarnation. The
Yes.
incarnation is a spirit joining with flesh.
So before he incarnated into flesh, he was a spirit. And
I mean, I presume that's the right way to put it.
Yes.
Maybe there's a better way to put
so
it.
presumably, there were at least two Holy Spirits, Jesus and what we call the Holy Spirit.
That's the language you're using is alien to biblical theology.
No,
I
but
don't
we
think it
want
would
to
ever
know.
be put
Like,
that way.
yeah, we're
Because
not
you would,
asking about...
because God is spirit.
Yes,
Angels are spirit.
yes.
Okay, anything that's not physical is going to be spirit. So
Yes.
I'm not sure that this is actually helping us.
Yeah, but we're asking about, like, ultimately, there are obviously two Holy Spirits. We're not talking about lesser beings who are spirit beings, whether angels or devils, but we're asking now at the highest echelon, you have a trinity of divine persons. And at least two of them we can now identify are spirits. So you have two spirits in the highest echelon, and both of them have to be holy. So you have two Holy Spirits.
Well, the Father is holy too, so if you want to make it
Now
three
you
or
have
more,
three.
you can go right ahead.
So you have three
But
Holy
you're
Spirits.
moving, the Trinity is an analogy, and when you press an analogy at some point, it's going to break down.
Yes, but then the question is, how did Christians come up with this analogy? Because you said that Jesus is the Son of God, not biologically, but analogically. So how did Christians come up with this way of saying it, such that it is so flaky that you press it a little bit, it breaks down? And not only at this one point, but if we keep going at this for hours, we will see that this is how it's going to go again and again. Like, no matter how you press it, it's going to break. So how do you know that this is the correct way of speaking about God as a Trinity, as opposed to, for example, the simple way of saying there is only one God, he sent his Messiah, Jesus, he was a human being, a great one, a great messenger, a prophet of God, but still a servant and messenger of God.
Right, in the Quran you have this Holy Spirit as well.
You're asking me now. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yes, the Quran speaks about the spirit of holiness, Ruh al-Qudus.
Right, but I don't say, and so you've got two spirits, Allah, or is the Quran the spirit, or is it a, analog Quran?
But you see, we don't have a problem with the spirit of holiness. There is some ambiguity in the Quran.
We're playing with words here. God reveals himself through Jesus. Christians, monotheists, are trying to make sense of who Jesus is and what he's saying about his Father. And that's where Trinity comes, from an effort to understand Jesus' teaching and from our experience of the Trinity in our lives.
Doug, the difference is that when we speak about there being only one God, and we say the Quran is his book, this is a revealed message for us, there's no confusion in our minds as to who is God and who is not. Whom do we pray to and whom do we not pray to? So when we say there is one God, that's never compromised by our ever uttering three.
I was only saying that there's a precedent for having more than one eternal, uncreated entity in Islam itself.
But I'm not asking about an eternal and uncreated entity. I'm asking about the highest echelon, which only belongs to God. Do you have three persons, and are the three each a spirit, each a Holy Spirit? And in that case, how does the Bible say there is only one Spirit?
1 times 1 times 1. Not
Okay.
1 plus 1 plus 1.
What about 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 ad infinitum? That would also be one, true? So you can have many Holy Spirits and still have one God.
I don't know any Muslims, Jews, or Christians who think that there's more than one Holy Spirit. So I don't think it's so confusing.
And that ends the question point of portion of this. And now we will move on. Yes, thank you. For those out in the foyer, if you'd like